G'day! Today we are returning to my string challenge free play game of Corp, just to see how we can go, connecting the whole world on a single string. Okay, so what we were looking at last time was just upgrading the planes that are moving around in England and Ireland. So we'll just continue to just upgrade them just to improve their efficiency, because like I said last time, the assumption is now that the plane network of England and the layout is set, so we can now spend money on our planes because this should be how the layout stays forever. So it doesn't matter. We're not going to be deleting these and then having to rebuild them. So hopefully we can spend some money and move that a bit more efficiently. Now this lifelong billionaire is going to start spending more and more money every time we sort of open more countries, so certainly welcome that, because this hopefully isn't going to be too much about the money this playthrough. This is more just going to be about... You can see here that this is permanently staying red. The end goal of this game will be, can I have even a minute? Can I survive a minute without anything sort of cracking it? Not optimistic, but we'll see how we go. So we've got 2 more cities over here to bring in. That's certainly, I guess, the French section of Quebec. Trois Rivières, maybe? Okay, so... I suppose let's sell that one, we'll bounce him up. Bounce him down to there. And let's sell that one. Just make those 2. Save that one getting any longer. And because we are still getting Canadian cities, I don't really want to jump into going to the United States next, but I definitely want the US next, because ideally we want a lot of cities in the US. We want them to not be too big a distance that they have to travel at any point in here. And ultimately we want to be leaving through Mexico. So we will sort of come around and go down this way, but that doesn't mean that we won't visit these... I mean, possibly it might be that we come through the islands and then come back through Mexico and then loop to come down. So this whole section's going to sort of be part of, I guess, a group together. And we can definitely see we've still got a lot of red moving west at the moment, which isn't surprising because the new countries that we are opening are in the west, so they just want to keep traveling that direction. So let's just make sure we've got Manchester at level 2. Basically just want to have a huge amount of money just so we can start to just dump it on each of these and we don't have to go through the process of upgrading everything every single time. What we might do with this money is we'll start to increase the amount of planes that we've got on these longer routes. So what I'm going to try and do is have 5 planes on this, but I want these 2 guys to spread out a bit more before I update him. We'll go about there, and we'll make him level 2. Then we'll click on this line, and we'll wait for that guy to get to about here, and we'll give them plane 3. And we'll wait for... Or probably we'll have to update him, won't we? So otherwise he'll fall further behind. We'll give them plane 4. And then I guess we'll give them plane 5 in there, which is not as big a gap, but this guy's right on his tail. So what we're trying to do with that is just have as few gaps as possible in our journey. Put one in there. And then again, we'll wait till this guy gets to about there. And then what we can do is probably upgrade all 5. Okay. Just let this guy get a bit more of a lead on him. These long ones are definitely going to be our choke points for a long time, but the fact that we don't have too many red cities over there is a good sign at the moment. I suppose I don't want to add too many more there because, yeah, something like this will come in and I'll have to change my approach. So you've got to be clear when you're living in Halifax whether you're traveling to St. John's or you're traveling to St. John. Now, I want to try this route. This is in the name of trying to get as few, like, as short a distance overall, not necessarily just the absolute shortest route, but this is the longest route we've got in this part of Canada. So what if we go connect that guy there, and then connect him across here, sell that route. We'll then send him north to Quebec. They go up there. This guy comes down. We sell that one. We sell that one. Then we move him across there, and we sell that one. North Bay here. So let's go across to this guy. We'll sell that. We'll go up there. And across. This one's a little bit spaced out, that route, but alright, that will do there. Oh, another one up here. Okay, so we probably want to also increase the amount of planes we've got on this one. And we'll just make sure we spread them nice as well. Now, hopefully what we're looking at here with these connections between Greenland and Canada and between Iceland, Greenland, hopefully they're the two longest routes that we actually have on the map. If we're lucky, we don't have to get much longer than that. I'm certain if we sit on countries as long as we are at the moment, which I am enjoying getting as many cities as possible in each country that we unlock. There's another one too. I think that what we'll sort of see in Russia is a huge expanse of cities. And so I'm certain that Russia will give us a real sort of extension of routes. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I mean, I do ponder about what direction I should go once I hit Europe, but I realize that that is a long way away at the moment. We've got all of this to get through first. There's another city up here. That's an interesting one on how do we connect to it. I suppose if we go that for now, and then we'll just wait to see if any other cities come in here, and we might redesign that section. Yeah, getting a lot of Canadian cities though. Okay, so what I would like to do is continue to make sure that we've got all of these upgraded to at least a level 2 city. Billionaire coming to our rescue again. I did the major cities. So it's probably the ones that I can't see their names at this point that are going to be only level 1 still. Now this is a good long-term investment because no matter what, the cities themselves will always be there, whether I get rid of the routes or not. So this is at least money well spent. Might as well just continue along the line. We're almost reaching a point where we're making more money than I'm spending at this rate of spending money. All of these planes to this point to have 50-seaters, so they can clear out all these airports as they come through. The ones that we're now up to here aren't. Let's Let's upgrade these guys. I'm not sure if I upgraded the planes internally in Iceland, so let's... Oh, even them too. They don't need it, but we won't get rid of the other guy. Just upgrade him as well. Just make sure we've got all the planes going. And then we'll just make sure that we've got all our cities back. I can't remember where we stopped that one. So that's 200. It's 100. 100. Okay. So we've got another one in here. Oh, we've got a few more in here. Cool, let's shorten that route slightly. Just make that connection. What are our cities over here? Sydney. Charlottetown. Is that Charlottetown? Or would you say Charlatan? Charlottetown seems like a mouthful to say every time you refer to your city. I mean, that's probably more of an Australian thing that you would just drop letters. You can even hear that when I say Australia, I drop the R out of the middle of it, which is not a common Australian thing. I just have a broken way of pronouncing my own country's name. Okay, and we've got Vancouver Island. Actually, now we don't really want to go that way. We'll just flip this around just so that, at least for now, our last Canadian city is right on the American border. And I'm still reluctant to add America while I'm still gaining more Canadian cities. Which always brings me back to, alright, well, what else can I do for just increasing England? This certainly will be the central point. If you think about it, everywhere in the US and England and the Middle East, it's going to get absolutely hammered with traffic passing through. So even these sort of central routes, we just want to have, like, what's the harm in having 5 planes on it? Unless they're connected to something that's not going to be able to shift people that quickly. Something like this route here. So, so again, I don't want to really do this. Let's just start at Brussels, and we'll say what we can do is just continue to upgrade Brussels until it is a fully fledged city in this period that we're waiting. I mean, that becomes expensive though, I suppose. But we don't want to upgrade that route in case France does take it too much. So we probably want to leave that as is. It's all these internal ones that we want to start to upgrade. And even then, these ones here are the really soft-core ones, because at this point it's just London to Dover. It's only going to be dealing with people that are going to or from Dover and Brussels only. Whereas, say, Dumfries is having to go through every city of these. It's making anyone travel anywhere. It's part of its problem. But it's that easy to have just like a full-blown plane coming through here. So we'll just make London to Dover the first insane route. Alright, we've got a few more Canadian cities up here. So let's sell that one. We'll send these guys up. Got to assume again that's a pretty French name. Valdior. Whoa, okay. Yellowknife. So I suppose we'll be going via Edmonton. And that's a very long trip that every single person crossing the Atlantic is probably going to have to take. Just add it in there. What was I learning about the other day in this part of the world? I'm not sure if any of you were playing Inscription, which is a game I wholeheartedly am enjoying. My daughter really loves watching me play it. I tried making a video of that, of her sitting on my lap telling me which cards to take and why they're good, and it's very, very adorable for a 5-year-old to get into a game that's as dark as that. She covers her eyes if I ever pull her to for anything, so she knows what parts are scary and what isn't. But one of the cards, and that's a shapeshifter, and it's from, I think, Alaskan, Inuit mythology. So I was learning about that the other day. It's a nice little hidden card in the Inscription deck. I'm not sure if it's in the normal game. I'm playing the Keiichi mod at the moment. Look at that. No one's waiting between London and Portsmouth. Get to your destination when you're down there. And Portsmouth's almost full, I guess, constantly. The amount of traffic that's moving across. Now with that, I wonder what level I should up my cities to. If we go all of these London cities, I mean, these are already 300. How many people do we think is going to be a problem for these? If we go to 500, let's try that. Because then we don't have to do this over and over. We can just sort of start to work this end of this to try and clean it up. There we go, okay. Advising us to withdraw all max capacity ones. Like, first level ones. I mean, I've said yes, I realize that's probably not worthwhile, because what I've done is just cleared out all these planes, which as soon as I start to sell these lines again, I'm going to have to pay for those planes. There's no point in doing that, I suppose, until I actually have the... that anytime I build a plane, it's going to be a level 2 plane. So it's going to be shorter for him to travel there than there, so we'll set up that route, we'll sell that one, and we'll just bring him down that way. This is also a country that I don't know too much more beyond once you pass sort of like about this far on the Canadian border. What's up there? It genuinely surprises me that Edmonton's even that high up. I don't know how deep you can actually really go livable into Canada before it becomes incredibly cold or incredibly covered with ice for large chunks of the year, or that you're in darkness for a lot. Alright, let's do it. We're in the United States. That's just going to be basically the same thing again. We'll say no this time. Okay. So, the question here is, what way do we join all these guys in at the moment? Probably this sort of connection in, so that you just sort of sweep through those two and go back up. Which in the long term isn't that bad either. If we can get the northeast of, and these major cities like Washington and New York this close to the Atlantic connection, as opposed to having to travel through all of this to get there. I mean, it's not going to be the biggest impact, but hopefully it'll help a little bit. Okay, so now what we've got to do is just wait on the United States to hopefully give us as many cities as possible, so we're well covered and we don't have to have that too long a distance trips. Alright, so it is slightly shorter for him to come this way, so we'll connect him that way. It's funny still seeing this one super jet just taking care of business. Let's put in our second one. So you can see we can put 5 planes. We can put 5 planes on these tiny little lines. The idea of how many passengers we can move is crazy. Alright, so there's Philly. I haven't really spent much time in Philly. I've flown in and out of Philly a few times, but then sort of driven off into the... Just, I guess, deeper into Pennsylvania. As a young adult, I went and spent some time in, what was it called? Allentown, Pennsylvania. I remember I went to Burger King, and I said, can I have a Whopper with... And she just interrupted me. She was like, a Whopper? She's like, where are you from? I said, oh, from Australia. She said, what are you doing in Allentown? She seemed disgusted on my behalf that, that anyone would holiday there. Alright, well, we won't try and... This is obviously a very long line here, but we won't bother to increase it because we will surely get Seattle and Portland. And probably San Francisco, so there'll be a fair bit that'll connect to that edge of the coast. You can see how beautifully green these sections here are because they're not getting bogged down by how many passengers they can carry, and there we go. So we've got another billionaire is going to give us a small amount of money. Beautiful. That money will go up and up every time we unlock more countries because we've got so few countries at the moment. Too much is happening. That was San Jose we got, not Los Angeles. There's LA now attached. It's definitely a dead space here, how long these flights are. What would we get in there? Minneapolis? You could possibly pick up in this section that might make that shorter. It's Milwaukee somewhere up in this area too. Maybe a bit more this way. Houston. So now we're getting some long connecting flights sweeping along the bottom of the US. You can see that once we've got these jets in, and obviously this is the very end of the line, but how these sort of like are staying much greener. It's much nicer to look at. That being said, I think these are also... I've also upgraded these a lot higher than stuff around it, so let's just keep on loading them in. This means that with these sort of connections, they're almost becoming set and forget. That obviously we'll get a bit more money at some point, and maybe put more planes on this if they are still struggling with the amount of people moving back and forth between them, but otherwise it could be that they just shift passengers so quickly that... Although possibly what will happen is that one of these planes will drop 600 people off, and then the next one's just got to make sure that they hit it and move that 600 on. And it's just going to be a chain of that, but every single plane is going to be bringing a full 600 people that... say a connection like this is obviously going to bring more people to this station if everyone's wanting to go west than what this guy can collect because he's not traveling as like his distance is obviously more stretched out. However, this guy is going to be at the mercy really of how many planes this guy here can move, how many passengers he can move, because that's about the same length as Portsmouth. So potentially this route here will offset the damage that Dover and Portsmouth could do because Plymouth is going to and what Plymouth could potentially struggle with. So there's definitely give and take with that. We get another city in there? We did. Alright, so for now let's just run along the bottom connecting these guys. This is all pretty nasty at the moment with how spread they are, but we'll just sit on America for a while. Just see how many cities it'll give us. So I certainly wouldn't say that we're done yet with Canada. certainly a lot more adjustments that we could make. Think about how to best do this. I think possibly what we could do is go Montreal comes down to Boston. Boston connects to New York. We separate that out. And then instead we go sell that. And we sell... Well, we go 1, 2, 3. And sell that guy. We sell that one. And at least that one shorter. Is that Phoenix? Yep. I once did a road trip on the US. I'm not sure if I said this before. So I went to Disney World. And my wife and some friends were going to go to Dragon Con in Atlanta. I was like, I don't want to go to Dragon Con. There's nothing there that seems like it's going to interest me. I've been to Comic-Con before, and I was like, I feel like I've seen like a massive convention. So instead I organized with another friend that we flew to Charlotte, and then we went from Charlotte to Charlotte across, sort of sweeping through the southern states, and then we hit Memphis. Yeah, we spent the night in Memphis, and then we spent the next day going south down the Mississippi River till we got to New Orleans. Then we had 2 days in New Orleans. Then we cut across and went to San Antonio. Saw the Alamo. Then the next day we went across to... Where did we end up? Went across to hit the border here, and then we went up to Roswell, New Mexico. Then from New Mexico, we swung back into Texas briefly to go see the Cadillac graveyard in Amarillo. And then through Oklahoma and into Kansas, and then back into Colorado. Got Pikes Peak in Colorado Springs, and then went north. Spent the night there, then went to Denver Airport, because that had been about a week, and so my wife was done with Dragon Con, so she joined us then. And then we went north into Wyoming, South Dakota, went and saw Crazy Horse Monument, Mount Rushmore, Deadwood, and then swung back into Wyoming to go see Devil's Tower, and then north into Billings, Montana. There we go, there's that. Who are we looking for? Minneapolis. So Minneapolis was way further this way than where I said. Then from Billings we went to Yellowstone National Park. Through that we went to Idaho. Then we went and saw some ice caves in Idaho. Then down to Salt Lake City, which happened to be like what Salt Lake City convention was on, which my wife wanted to go to, so we spent a little bit of time in that. Sorry, Salt Lake City would be a bit more down here. And then we went down to Mexican Hat. Is that Arizona? Well, Four Corners, and then Mexican Hat. Then we went and saw the Grand Canyon, then the Hoover Dam, and then we finished our road trip in Las Vegas. And then flew from there to LA and back out. So that would have been, if I'm drawing it with the mouse, it probably would have been like this. And that was, I think, 12 days, which was it was a full-time job of a road trip. But you can drive quite fast in America, and that was handy. It's definitely one thing I missed when I came back to Australia. So as I understand it, and certainly any Americans listening to this can correct me. In America, if the speed limit is 80 and you're doing Yes, let's do that. The speed limit's 80 and you're doing 100 and no one else is doing 100, then you'll get done for speeding. But if the speed limit's 80 and everyone's doing 100, then the speed limit's 100, and that's fine. And because of that, it meant that you could go way faster in the US, because Australia, that dog don't hunt, and it is if you are if the speed limit is 80, then you were doing 80. So I definitely missed that when I came back home. The other traffic rule I really enjoyed in the States was that after certain hours of the day, the traffic lights would flash. They would stop operating operating normally. So if you were going through a set of traffic lights at like 4 a.m. in the morning and no one else is there, it's no longer like you're not going to get stopped by a red light and then have to sit there and wait for it to change green. It'll just flash. It'll flash yellow as a give way sign, or flash red as a stop sign, which was great. I really liked that too. They're the big two things I enjoyed about driving in the US. The hard thing about driving in the US, I'm not sure for those who have ever driven on the opposite side of the road to what they're used to driving on. So in Australia, I normally drive on the left-hand side of the road, whereas in America, you're driving on the right-hand side of the road. And what's really weird about that is because when I'm driving on the left-hand side of the road, I'm on the left-hand side of the car, and I can sort of like, without thinking about it, I can stay on the road because I've sort of got in my head what I'm lining up the car against. But if you swap what side of the road you're on and what side of the car you're on, that like sort of line that you're running off is completely gone. So the amount of times that you will just drift off the road, you just start to drift, and the passenger will have to say to you, like me and my wife kept doing it because we both were doing it when we were swapping between driving. You'd have to say, you're drifting, because you'd just suddenly be off the road because what you're used to lining up on, which would be, say, like I would have the middle of the road would be what you would line up on the right side of the car. But when you're driving on the opposite side, that would be on the left side of the car. So what you're actually looking for on the right side of the car isn't there. And it just, I don't know, it's crazy. It's a really weird sensation. I'm sure that if you do it enough, you get used to it, but I certainly haven't reached that point. Alright, so got some more American cities. We are sort of fleshing this out a bit more. And we are just merrily hopping back and forth over the border at the moment. We use Pittsburgh to just divide that Washington to Toronto route. No guarantee that this is the great sort of like final way that we'd lay this out, but for now it's what we'll keep. You can see that everyone down here is nice dark red because they're small planes and small airports. Although, did we upgrade? Worldwide recommends we upgrade all first level airports, so they're should all be upgraded, but it's currently not yet giving us the option to have them just sort of like automatically come in as level 2, which will be great when that happens. Again, you can see that this lovely part that we have started to really push with our upgrades is much greener than the rest of the world. So that's why we're slowly pushing along. Now, I have to work out how much it costs me to upgrade one of these planes fully. It's probably about 5,000 or so. So I should probably wait till I hit 5,000 before I chuck another one in upgraded. Because I don't want to be buying another country yet, because I do want America to just offer me as many cities as I can. Because every time they do, just like this, we can see that that's going to shorten this route. We'll say as well that on that road trip, this part of America is stunning. That if you did a flight where you flew into, say, Denver, went north, did South Dakota, and sort of the things I listed, and then went into Montana and then into Yellowstone, did the things you listed, sort of just see Yellowstone, you could do that for 2 weeks, and then come down and hit Salt Lake, and then cut through the mountains and end up back in Denver. That would be a beautiful little round trip you could do. One fun fact about Yellowstone, I'm not sure how many people know this, but I reckon it's a really neat, interesting fact. So, Yellowstone's borders, Yellowstone is predominantly in Wyoming, the state of Wyoming, which would sit about, what are we going to say, there. But its western border actually goes over into Idaho, but technically Yellowstone is in Wyoming. So if you committed a murder in the 20 miles of Yellowstone that is in Idaho, you would be arrested in Wyoming. However, you would have to go through the Wyoming court system to be tried for murder. However, if you demanded that you were tried by a jury of your peers from the end, and part of American law, I think, is that it has to be from within the region that you're from, like the, I guess, what would you call it, like district. It would have to be people from Idaho, which can't appear in a Wyoming court, which would mean that the only people who could actually be part of your jury would have to live in the 20-mile gap of Idaho, of Yellowstone National Park that is in Idaho, where no one would live because it's part of a national park. So if you want to get away with murder in the United States, kill someone in that 20-mile gap on the western edge of Yellowstone, because you can't be tried for it. Alright, what we'll do is we'll upgrade this one last plane here. I get him all the way. Right, I was wondering why this guy was only costing me 16,000, but someone back here cost me 32, and I realized that that was because of the thing that was working against me. So when I said 5,000, that was considering that it was doubled because of what one of these guys was doing for me. So it won't be anywhere near that. It'll probably be a bit more around 3,500. Cool, that's good. And you can see that once we've got these faster planes, there's still the same amount of people are moving through this, but they're moving so quick and they're moving in such bulk that it's causing these guys absolute headaches. But every time we upgrade the next one, hopefully it pushes that problem along. So that's another 2 cities that we've got in here. So we will add San Antonio. And we will add Columbus to, let's, I suppose. And really what we should do, at least at this point, is get rid of that. Make those 2 there, and then that way. It's probably a bit of a cleaner route. Alright, so we are still definitely waiting for a lot more US cities to appear. I'm sure that there's, based on the amount of Canadian cities that we've got, I'd imagine that there's a few more to come. So we will wait and see, but that will be the end of it for this one. Any questions or comments, feel free to chuck them below, but till next time, catch you later. See ya.